You can spend an entire day doing almost nothing and still feel completely exhausted. Not physically tired, mentally drained. You didn't lift anything heavy. You didn't run anywhere. And yet, by the evening, you feel empty. If this sounds familiar, the problem isn't your body. It's what you've been carrying in your mind all day. Most people assume that exhaustion comes from effort, from doing too much. But very often, it comes from doing almost nothing, while constantly thinking about what you should be doing. Tasks stay unfinished, decisions stay unmade, and your brain keeps them all active in the background. You wake up already feeling behind. There are things you know you should start, messages you should answer, work you should move forward. But instead of acting, you think about acting. You imagine the task. You imagine how long it will take, how uncomfortable it might feel, how much energy it will require. And then you delay. You tell yourself you'll start later, when you feel more focused, when you feel more motivated, when the timing feels right. But later never really comes. The task stays open, and every time you remember it, your brain spends energy reacting to it. By the end of the day, the weight isn't physical. It's mental, a quiet pressure, a sense that you wasted time, even if you were busy all day. The guilt feels heavier than the task itself. This isn't laziness. It's not a personality flaw. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It tries to protect you from uncertainty and discomfort. When a task feels unclear, overwhelming, or emotionally uncomfortable, your brain avoids it, not by deleting it, but by postponing it. And postponed tasks don't disappear. They turn into open loops. An open loop is any unfinished thought that keeps coming back. A message you haven't replied to, a project you haven't started, a decision you haven't made. Each one creates a small amount of tension. 1 or 2 are manageable. 10 or 20 slowly drain your energy. Your brain keeps checking these loops in the background, even when you're resting, even when you're watching videos, even when you're lying in bed. You're never fully off, because something is always waiting. This is why thinking about work can feel more exhausting than actually working. Action closes loops. Thinking keeps them open. And open loops constantly demand attention. You might notice this when you finally start something you've been avoiding. Even if you only work for a few minutes, you feel lighter. Not productive, lighter. That relief doesn't come from progress. It comes from breaking the loop. Planning without action often makes things worse. You sit down to organize your tasks. You write lists. You think about priorities. It feels responsible, but nothing actually changes. Your brain experiences the stress of responsibility without the relief of movement. This creates a strange illusion of productivity. You feel busy, but more tired. Organized, but heavier. Because the loops are still open. This is also why social media feels like rest. It isn't rest. It's distraction. It temporarily pulls your attention away from unfinished thoughts. For a moment, the loops go quiet, but they never close. As soon as the distraction ends, the tension returns. You're not recharging. You're escaping. An escape always comes with a cost. Over time, this builds a dangerous cycle. The more unfinished tasks you carry, the harder it becomes to start. The harder it becomes to start, the more unfinished tasks you accumulate. Eventually, even simple actions feel overwhelming. Not because they are difficult, but because they carry emotional weight from past avoidance. At this point, people often blame themselves. They think they lack discipline. They think they're broken. But the problem isn't willpower. It's mental load. The solution isn't forcing yourself to work harder. Pressure adds more tension to already open loops. What actually helps is something much smaller and much quieter. You need to close the loop just enough to calm your brain. Take one task, not all of them. 1. Reduce it to the smallest possible action. Not finishing it, not making progress, just starting in a way that feels almost too easy. Open the document. Write one sentence. Read one paragraph. Rename the file. Set a timer for 2 minutes and stop when it ends. The action should feel almost meaningless. This works because your brain doesn't need completion to relax. It needs proof of movement. The moment a task turns from a thought into an action, the threat disappears. The tension drops. The loop loosens. This is why people often feel relief immediately after starting, even if they stop shortly after. Something shifted. The task is no longer haunting them as an idea. It exists in reality now. Your brain doesn't calm down when everything is done. It calms down when something has begun. Direction matters more than progress. Productivity isn't about doing more. It's about carrying fewer unfinished thoughts in your head. The lighter your mental load, the more energy you naturally have. Sometimes the deepest exhaustion isn't caused by work. It's caused by everything you keep postponing, everything you keep thinking about, but never touch. And this is only one type of mental fatigue. There is another one that hides even deeper. It feels similar, but it comes from a completely different place. We'll talk about that next.